5,000 years ago, in an age when the great empires of Rome and Greece were nothing more than a distant dream, one civilization conceived the impossible and built the unimaginable. We have been told for centuries that the Great Pyramid of Giza was a tomb constructed by an army of slaves in just 20 years. But if you actually do the math, the narrative begins to crumble.
To meet that 20-year deadline, the builders would have had to place one 2-ton stone block every 3 minutes, 24 hours a day, without a single break, for 2 decades. There are 2.3 million blocks in that structure, aligned to true north with a precision that modern engineers can only match using satellites and lasers. Today, we are not just asking how they built it. We are conducting a technical audit of history itself.
Most people see the Great Pyramid as a sudden, isolated miracle, or perhaps the work of something non-human. But the truth is actually more impressive. It was the climax of a 1,000-year engineering space race. Before the Egyptians reached perfection, they lived through a series of monumental, high-stakes failures.
It started with Menes and the world's first stone dam, a project that redirected the Nile itself. But early engineering was a brutal learning curve. We see ruins like the Sa'd al-Kafara, which collapsed under the sheer pressure of the water it was meant to hold. Then came Pharaoh Snefru, the man who nearly bankrupted an empire trying to get the math right.
Snefru's first attempt at a smooth pyramid at Meidum was a disaster, with its outer casing sliding off the core like a failed experiment. His second attempt, the famous bent pyramid, shows us a civilization mid-correction, abruptly changing its angle from 54 to 43 degrees just to keep the burial chambers from collapsing under their own weight.
This was human trial and error on a planetary scale. By the time they reached the Giza Plateau, they weren't guessing anymore. They had built a literal design lab into the bedrock. Recent archaeological finds show one-to-one plans mapped out right next to the construction site. They used a double helix grid system, 2 slightly offset designs that created those magical, perfect angles.
And they used the tools they had in abundance. While we look for cranes, they looked to the river. There is a compelling theory that they moved these 80-ton granite blocks using the physics of water itself. By attaching inflated animal skin floats to the stones and guiding them through a series of water-filled causeways and shafts, they let nature do the heavy lifting.
When they weren't using water, they were hacking the sand. Experiments show that simply wetting the sand in front of a transport sled reduces friction by 50%, allowing a smaller team of men to move stones that seem immovable. But it wasn't just about moving the weight. It was about the materials they chose to move.
This is where the engineering becomes eerie. The exterior was encased in Tura limestone, a material that acts as a perfect electrical insulator. But the interior chambers were built with Rose Granite brought from 500 miles away. This granite is 85% quartz, a crystal that produces piezoelectricity when placed under immense pressure.
If you apply pressure to that much granite, you create an electrical circuit. The entire complex is essentially a giant machine tuned to a frequency of 440 Hz, emitting a constant F-sharp chord that resonates in harmony with the Earth's own natural vibration. And then there is the coordinate itself, 29.9792458 degrees north. That is the exact speed of light, measured in meters per second.
Skeptics will call it a coincidence, but when you combine the math, the material science, and the astronomical alignment, a new picture emerges. The Great Pyramid wasn't a tomb for a dead king. No mummies were ever found there, and no original hieroglyphs claim its construction.
It was a physical backup of human knowledge. It was built at the geodesic center of the Earth's landmass, scaled to the northern hemisphere, and encoded with the fundamental constants of our planet. It was an archive designed to survive a cataclysm.
The Egyptians were not just building a monument to an ego, they were building a bridge between the human and the divine. They left us a message in stone, a silent reminder that 5,000 years ago, we were much closer to understanding the universe than we are today. We just have to be willing to read the math they left behind.